The Friday Rugby Preview with Stuart Cameron.
Hello and welcome to the Friday Rugby Preview, putting the focus on all the Borders clubs, including the East League teams from the area. And joining me as usual is Robin Purdy, and we continually get surprised by the results that it produces. So let's start with the Premiership from last weekend. Let's look at those results. Ayr 82, Musselburgh 0, Enbrackies 45, Currie 27, Hawick 19, Heriot's 39, Kelso 12, Selkirk 22, Marr 24, Glasgow Hawks 24, Melrose 5, Watsonians 31. So let's have a look at, the big one obviously which screams out at you. Ayr 82, Musselburgh 0.
Big scoreline. Ayr were always going to win that match, I think, no matter what Musselburgh team were sent down there. It was thought that maybe some were held back, and yeah, Musselburgh were kind of in the news a wee bit in the tail end of the week in the run up to that game. There was obviously the article in the offside line, but my take on one of the aspects of that is abundantly clear. If a coach wants to send a second string team to Ayr, I can completely understand that, to be honest, because Musselburgh have got other fish to fry in the coming weeks, so I've no issue with that whatsoever. Ayr are just a different animal, to be honest. Heriot's as well, in fairness, but yeah, Ayr and Heriot's starting to take shape now, and Ayr and Heriot's are sitting pretty at the top of the league, and I don't see that changing over the course of the season. I tell you what needs to stop Stuart this: Ayr have got this and Ayr have got that. No, Ayr have earned this and Ayr have earned that over decades, in my opinion. By far and away the benchmark for me in Scottish club rugby, on and off the field, been like that for a number of years. They've invested heavily in business relationships over many, many years. You don't get Albert Bartlett on the front of the jerseys by fluke. There's relationships built and there's commercial acumen and all that kind of stuff. So fair play to Ayr, and I don't begrudge them one little bit of what, in inverted commas, they have got that other people seem to have a problem with. We've been down there, and every time we've left, we've said, "Oh yeah, this just feels a lot different to a lot of other grounds that you visit when you're there on match day." And it's all earned, Stuart. It really is. In my opinion, that's my humble opinion.
I second that definitely, and there's a lot of people who will. There's a lot of hard work you've got to put in, and that is what you can achieve.
Oh, definitely, and it's the off the pitch stuff. I think I read somewhere that they have over 100 sponsors boards around the place, whether it's pitch side or on the side of buildings or everywhere you look on the stat. There's a sponsors board, and that's hard earned that over years and years and years, and it's good business acumen and all the rest of it. And they've done really well, and they're doing really well, and they're going to continue to do really well this season.
Enbrackies 45, Currie 27, two full strength teams there, and Enbrackies coming out on top.
Yeah, all credit to Enbrackies. I said pre-season that I thought they might sort of struggle a wee bit this year. I thought just because they hadn't recruited as many players from Super Rugby as I thought they might. But yeah, absolutely fair play to them. Didn't embarrass themselves at all against Heriot's the week before, and that's a decent scoreline against a Currie team, a Currie squad that had a wee bit of a stronger look about it. So Aki's in a real good place at the moment. In saying that about Currie's squad, they were missing their fullback Brett, and when they missed him last season, I think they lost 3 games as well. He for me, no matter how many Super Rugby boys come in, he's the absolute talisman. That's been a big loss for them, evidently at Aki's there. But Currie just need to buy a win from somewhere at the moment.
Yeah, 3 on the bounce at the moment.
You've got long odds on that at the start of the season as well.
Yeah, again, more on Currie very, very shortly. But Hawick 19, Heriot's 39, and I've been going back to the record books to try and find out the last time Hawick had leaked nearly 40 points. I haven't actually found it yet, so I'll tune in next week. We'll try and get that. But it just shows you how rare that result is. And Hawick just won away, I think, from a try bonus themselves, but Heriot's obviously really cooking.
Oh yeah, Heriot's just seemed to improve a wee bit week on week, I would suggest, and they've had some good wins now, 3 good wins and bonus point wins at that. And yeah, I think if any result gives you a real example of how it's going to look this season with the teams at the top and some of the rest, it's Heriot's going to Hawick of all places and putting 39 points on them. But that's just, again, it's another game that Hawick have got out the way. I keep saying it every week, that game's out the way, and it tends to be when you're talking about playing against Ayr or playing against Heriot.
And we always talk about, if you're going away from home or something, trying to silence the crowd. Heriot's did that very, very quickly. And also Kelso against Selkirk. Selkirk 19-0 up in about 15 minutes.
Well, my word, and they did silence the crowd very, very quickly. That was so impressive by Selkirk down there. We obviously covered that game, and Kelso were a wee bit blown away in the first 25 minutes to half hour of that game. They looked a wee bit shell-shocked, but Selkirk, they just looked so cohesive. They looked well coached, well drilled. They just looked bang up for it, to be honest. And Kelso heading away to Glasgow Hawks now on Saturday. It's an imminently winnable game, of course, but Glasgow Hawks will be thinking the same. All credit to Selkirk. They will have made people, myself included, sit up and take notice. And I think from what I've seen so far and what I've read and what I've heard so far, that's the recruitment of the summer. Selkirk, the club, have recruited absolutely brilliantly. Fisher, the second row, Corey Tate, outstanding. The lad Brunland from New Zealand, and a bit of an unsung hero in that pack at the moment, Taylor Wilson from Gala as well. They just look a different animal this season.
Now, you were there obviously for that game. Selkirk didn't score any tries after that first period, so they went 3/4 of the game without scoring any more tries, which was presumably very frustrating for them. They'd have liked to have come away with that try bonus, but I suppose credit to Kelso for managing to keep them out. But then you look at Selkirk again in defensive mode, and they only leaked a couple of tries in the whole game.
Oh yeah, and one was essentially the last play of the game when they were down to 13 men after Kelso had knocked on the door for an awful long time. So Selkirk, yeah, just in a really good place. But not just the new signings as well. I think the back three in particular look a brilliant unit. They almost look telepathic at the moment. Pickles, Josh Welsh and Callum Anderson in particular. Callum Anderson's got the lot for me as a fullback. He can send it 60 metres with that left peg of his, but he looked like he could do something dangerous every time he touched the ball on Saturday, whether it was beating a man with footwork, whether it was an offload. Very, very good player.
Marr 24, Glasgow Hawks 24. Marr coming out of that one with 3 points, and Glasgow Hawks 2 points. And Glasgow Hawks, we were talking to Andy Hill after the match, the head coach at Hawks. He was obviously disappointed. In fact, they were both disappointed. I suppose it's like kissing your sister, isn't it? As they say, a draw. It's not the greatest result, but Marr were 14 points off the pace leading up to the end, so they managed to get back and get that try bonus.
And I think they've done pretty well by the sounds of things. You know, when you've seen how far ahead Glasgow Hawks were, it's a strange one for Hawks. They'll be disappointed, of course, as Andy said, but a draw down at Marr to me still looks like a brilliant result given how I've seen them perform at Selkirk the week before.
And the other match was Melrose 5, Watsonians 31, and this one I suppose did go to form.
I would say so. Stuart, Melrose had that brilliant win the week before at Currie, but I don't think anybody was under any illusion that this would be a tougher task against the next Super Series team, and one that's just starting to, not quite purr I would suggest, but just starting to hit their straps, I would say, and just starting to get a few familiar faces, familiar names back. And yeah, Melrose will not be the last team that will lose home or away to Watsonians this season, that's for sure. But yeah, I think Melrose 5 points from those opening 3 games. I think there's people within the club that would have taken your hand off for that pre-season. And they've got a massive 4 games coming up.
National 1 then last week, Biggar 16, Peebles 25. It was Biggar's first loss of the season. They won their first 2 games at Dundee and obviously at home to Jed-Forest as well, coming back to win that very late in the day. Peebles, newly promoted, got a couple of points against Glasgow Accies, one of the top 3 teams at the moment at home. Now 5 points at Biggar.
Yeah, toss of the coin between that and Selkirk. Peebles and Selkirk for me as in result on the weekend. That is an absolutely tremendous result. All credit to Peebles. You know, there's a lot to be said about that game. You know, Peebles coming in winless, Biggar of 2 from 2. Biggar have recruited well. It's up Biggar. It's a really hard place to go, and it's a bit of a, you know, it's a derby as well. There would have been a big crowd, and that is a superb result for Peebles. And Peebles now, of course, on 7 points. It's a brilliant win at Biggar, like I say. But let's not forget they've already been to Stirling and they've already played Glasgow Accies, 2 of the top 3 teams for me in that division. They've got those games out the way, as well as a trip to Hartrees. Peebles, for me, now looking up the table.
And for many years, Peebles have been the number 7 ranked club in the Borders. Now, I'd imagine they're looking at Jed-Forest and they're looking at Gala and saying, hang on, we could actually do something really special this year. Oh, definitely.
I don't think there's any reason for any of those 3 teams to fear each other, if that makes sense. I think we've got some great games coming up throughout the season between the 3 of them as they strive to be the top dog in that division. It's a division of great peril this season. 3 down out of 7 now. I'm going to say with a degree of confidence that Stirling are not going to be one of the 3, Glasgow Accies are not going to be one of the 3, and GHA are not going to be one of the 3. and Jed, Gala and Peebles will be looking to pick up as many wins in the first half of the season as possible.
That's quite scary, isn't it, when you look at it from that point of view? Boroughmuir 24, Dundee 23 was a tight one at Meggetland, and of course Dundee, Boroughmuir and the likes of Highland are all in that bottom area at the moment, so it's getting rather congested. Okay, Gala 20, Jed-Forest 14 in the first border derby of the season in terms of league, and Gala getting the better of Jed in that one. Gala, of course, were coming off the back of 50 points plus at GHA, so a good return there for the Maroons.
Definitely, any win on the back of that result was going to be a good win for me. A 6-3 would have been absolutely fine, but yeah, that's a good win for Gala, and Gala now are all of a sudden they're 2 from 3, and things look a bit more rosy after the GHA result. Jed, they've got a bonus point away from home like they did when they got a couple of bonus points at Biggar if Jed can pick up home wins, but I think Gala and Jed, Peebles, it could be a case of win as many home games as you can, because for Jed, for example, they've still got the big 3 to play at home now. There's no guarantee you're going to win those 3 home games, let alone those 3 away games. So yeah, it's important to win as many games at home as possible, and they'll be looking to do that this weekend, that's for sure.
Highland 14, GHA 26, so GHA getting a good win at Canal Park, which is a very difficult place to get a result. Highland always have tremendous support, and more on Highland a little bit later on. Stirling County 52, Glasgow Accies 21, under the lights at Bridgehaw, and that is pretty convincing stuff.
It's just another example of the fact that Stirling are going to be the team to beat this season. Glasgow Accies will be there or thereabouts, I would have thought, in terms of the top 3, like I said earlier. But yeah, Stirling just look to be a different animal at the moment. But yeah, that's going to be a good game for them this weekend as well.
So that wraps up last weekend. This weekend there's a game tonight in the Premiership. Watsonians against Edinburgh Accies. Currie without a win, and Hawick, old rivals in the Premiership in recent times, but we're in a new era now, of course. Let's hear what Green's head coach Graeme Hogg has to say.
As the old saying goes, we are looking forward to getting back on the horse this week after a disappointing defeat at home to Heriot's last weekend. It doesn't come any easier this week with an away trip to Millennium Park to play our old favourites Currie in what is sure to be an exciting fixture, which has certainly been exciting over the last few years. I think I mentioned post-match from last Saturday that Heriot's taught us a lesson, especially in the set piece and just how they played conditions, especially in that second half. Credit to them. I thought they were excellent. And as you say, they taught us a lesson. The big thing that we've spoke about this week in training is what we do learn from last week. There's been some frank conversations. There's been some excellent communications, especially our leadership group stepping up and making sure that what happened last Saturday hopefully doesn't happen again. For the first time this week, we're going into a full week's training with no more injury doubts. We've obviously still got long-term injuries to Stuart, Graeme, Marcus Brogan, Connor Sutherland, but we've got a full squad to pick from, alongside a couple of professionals that will be hopefully making their debut for us moving forward this week.
So I'm sure, as he alluded to, plenty of talk after that one, but Hawick do have a great chance to bounce back, and that's what they did after Edinburgh Accies beat them.
Oh yeah, they responded brilliantly after that with that huge win against Marr. In previous seasons, this we're almost talking about this game as a title decider, even at this stage of the season. But obviously that's not the case with the way things have fallen this season, with the Super Series clubs coming back in. Currie are bottom of the table, but it doesn't look like a walk in the park for Hawick by any stretch of the imagination. This one's a tough one to call. I'm surprised Currie have not won any games this season, and Hawick can go there with nothing to fear, but I also have a sense that somewhere along the line Currie are going to get back on the horse, and they're probably going to give somebody a scalping. But no, I don't see it being Hawick this weekend. I see this one being a pretty tight one, to be honest.
And of course we've already seen one border team go down there and pip them at the post, and Hawick will look to be the second team.
Oh yeah, but as I've said many's a time since that happened, that was a brilliant result for Melrose up there, and Hawick absolutely can look at that, and they'll, if they've seen a video of it, they'll can think, well, there's places, there's areas of Currie that we can exploit, but let's not think that they're going to saunter in there and it be a cakewalk. It's still going to be a tough game, but like I say, it's a tough one to call, and it should be a great game.
Glasgow Hawks against Kelso. Hawks won at Balgrey last year. Kelso coming off the back of 2 losses now. Let's hear from Director of Rugby at Kelso, Neil Hinnigan.
Hawks will be in a good mood after a good result away to Marr last week, so they'll be fairly buoyant from that. And they had a good win, first game of the season at home at Musselburgh. So a tough place to go. They beat us up there last year as well. Injuries-wise, we've now lost Murray Woodcock. He's broke his hand. Grant Shields still remains sidelined with Andy Tate and Harry Borthwick obviously is long term. So a few guys still out. Liam Herdman is back this week from his holidays, but Liam Tate is now away on holiday as well. So it's one in, one out, so to speak. But there's a couple of guys in the draft available, so we'll see how that unfolds.
Shaky couple of matches against teams that are not former Super 6 sides, and of course their only win so far came against a Super 6 team.
Yeah, that's right, on the first day of the season. And the next 3 weeks, tricky fixtures for Kelso. They've got Hawks away. You know, that absolutely is a winnable game, but as I said before, Hawks will be feeling the same about that. Then Marr away, again, winnable, but again, Marr will be looking at that one as well. Then Ayr at home, so 3 tough assignments coming up. Then Melrose away after that for Kelso, and yeah, they just, you know, any kind of win would be good through there. Even leaving with a couple of points though, Stuart, I don't think would be an absolute disaster. I just think, you know, Kelso, they look like they miss Andy Tate. To me, that, you know, he's got a ton of experience, and do you know who I think they've missed this season as well? And that's Murray Hastie. He retired at the end of the season, and they're, you know, a couple of young tens. Figuring on Saturday there that, you know, when things weren't going their way, maybe the wrong decision was taken here or there, and yeah, Murray Hastie was a wee bit unheralded, but I think Kelso are just missing him a wee bit at the moment.
And sad to hear the other Murray Woodcock, out for a wee while.
Oh yeah, he's a good young player. You know, he's a Premiership operator now. That's what he's grown into, and yeah, Kelso, the injuries just starting to mount up, unfortunately, and yeah, that's a blow for him. And obviously Liam Tate had came back in on Saturday, and you know, he looked the part as well, but if he's on holiday as well, that would have been, you know, good if he could have came in with Woodcock being injured, but yeah, obviously he's not available as well.
Heriots versus Marr tomorrow. Hugh Brown will be at Golden Acre for Rugby Radio. Heriots unbeaten, so you'd think a home win is most likely to happen, but we've given up predicting this season, haven't we? With
some of our predictions this season have been absolutely terrible, let's be honest, but yeah, I'm going to stick my neck on the line here and go for 5 points for Heriots from this one.
Musselburgh against Melrose at Stony Hill, both teams coming off the back of heavy losses. Here's Scott White.
Yeah, so last week obviously didn't quite go to plan in terms of 31-5 in the end, but you look back at key points of the game just before half time, we're attacking at 14-5 down, which could have quite easily been 14-8 at best, 14-12. Unfortunately that doesn't happen, and Watsonians end up underneath the post at 21-5, and then for long spells of the second half we actually had quite a lot of pressure but didn't manage to convert any points, so 21-5 ended up being that for 78 minutes, believe it or not, until Watsonians scored. So, you know, Watsonians then scored another thereafter, which resulted in a 31-5 loss, which isn't ideal, but just shows again that we're no far away. In terms of focuses for this week's just probably being a wee bit more clinical in the goal zone, just in terms of mixing our plays up a wee bit more and trying to be a bit smarter to get over the gain line. This week there's a hot topic of conversation around halfbacks. Bruce Colvin obviously played last week, Rolly Brett at 10. Rolly Brett will definitely move to 12 this week, and it's just in terms of what that then looks like. Dougie Crawford's back available, Luke Townsend's on a late fitness test, Struan Hutchison's back available, and we've actually got a young Canadian kid across that's been here for the last 2 weeks and played for the second, so looking like the back three all stay the same as last. Kieran Clark will move to the back three, and Declan Macaulay, who missed out through illness last Saturday, he'll come back in at 13. Up front, unfortunately we've lost Tam Brown to an injury, so he's going to be out probably long term, so Tam will be a big miss in terms of the way that he's led himself this year just in and around the set piece. He's been fantastic, and there'll be a late fitness test for Will Owen, so if Will doesn't pass, obviously Jack will step into the starting team. Harry Morris has been released again, so he'll be at 2, Zen at 3. It'll be Angus Weir and Angus Runciman in the middle row, and we've also got Jerry Blythe-Lafferty released this week, which is excellent, so looking like he'd probably go in the back row. That's where we are. Obviously it's a huge game for us given where we and Musselburgh are on the table at the moment, so you know, for us it's probably the biggest game of the season.
And I think the worst thing they can do is take that 82-0 and think it's just going to be a walkover, because it's going to be a totally different Musselburgh side.
Oh, definitely. It'll be the Musselburgh side potentially that faced Kelso at Stonyhill the week before. So yeah, Scott and Chegg there are shrewd operators. They're not going to be fooled by the fact that Musselburgh had 82 points put on them down at Ayr, because some other teams could quite easily get 82 put on them down there as well. But yeah, good to see Struan and Hutchison back. Looks like the back line's going to have a stronger look about it this week. It's a blow. I agree with Scott. Big Tam Brown being out, Melrose lose a bit of bulk there, obviously. But yeah, if Jerry Blythe Lafferty's back and they're going to stick him in the back row, then why not get your best players on the park? But yeah, I agree with Scott. This is to me, looks like an absolutely massive game in the context of the season. There's almost a feel of the season starts now for Melrose. Two Super Series clubs played and Currie away. Brilliant to get 5 points out of that lot for me. But yeah, 4 big weeks coming up for Melrose.
The other game in the Premiership is at Philiphaugh. Selkirk have come through their first day loss at Marr with flying colours to record 2 wins against Hawks at home, Kelso away, and they've recruited well for sure. But how are they going to get on at home against the hot favourites Ayr? Here's head coach of Selkirk, Sesh Henderson.
Firstly, I'm really pleased with last week's result at Kelso. There's not many teams will go there and come away with points. The energy was in the first half. The energy was really good in terms of our attack. Probably disappointed we didn't get over the line to get the bonus point. In the second half, difficult win to deal with. We knew Kelso were going to apply a lot of pressure, but again, our energy and within our defensive sets it took a step forward for the week before, and to keep them out for 38 minutes before they scored that try to set the death. I was really pleased with to come away with 4 points. This week it's another big task for us against Ayr at home. They're obviously a very strong squad, but however our squad is really excited to be preparing to play Ayr this week. I think that's a challenge that we want. That's a challenge that the players are working hard towards each week, just want to improve. And I've said all along, I'm probably everybody's tired of me saying it. We just want to be competitive for as long as we can in each game. And if we can get to the last 20 minutes in each game, then we're in it. We stay in the fight. Who knows where the points will go? And our mindset is able to go out and try and work hard against Ayr and get us to that last 20 minutes and see what happens and really upset them. Tough task. But that's a challenge the boys are able to do. The mindsets are really good. Last night at training, we'll come 3 o'clock Saturday, we'll be ready for cross up Whitewash to give it a go.
Selkirk have recruited well, we've already said that, and one of the players is Jack Fisher, who has played against Ayr in the past, and we interviewed him afterwards. David Ferguson spoke to him, and he said to compete against Ayr you have to get in their faces, literally right from the word go.
Yeah, and that's certainly what he did on Saturday at Poinder. I was super impressed by him, as I was the week before, in all honesty. Brilliant signing. Big lad, puts himself about, gets in the faces, gets over the ball, carries it, makes his tackles. Yeah, brilliant acquisition for Selkirk. But yeah, this is going to be a really tough assignment. I've been so impressed by Selkirk when I've seen them the twice this season. do I put my hand on my heart and suggest they're going to win this weekend? Unfortunately, no, because Ayr are Ayr, and we've spoken about that before. But yeah, Selkirk can have a crack at them, then you just never know. They might, if Selkirk can leave this game with anything tangible at all, to be honest, if they can leave this game without their top guys being injured, to be honest, then that in itself represents a bonus. I think, Sesh, I'm sure Sesh will go at it sort of full crack, but it's that thing, you play Ayr this season. Selkirk got some big games coming up in the context of what their ambitions might be this season. Do you go into Ayr fully cock? I'm not so sure.
It's going to be very interesting, that one, that's for sure. Interesting also as well, after the first week, Kelso were the top Borders side in the Premiership. The next week it was Hawick, top Borders side. Now it's Selkirk.
Yeah, it's being passed around, and yeah, I think you have to look at it this season from a Borders perspective in the Premiership and say Selkirk have been the pick of the bunch so far, and I certainly think they've done the best recruitment. And
could we get Melrose in fact up there with a win, which could happen? They could actually go top Borders side this week. There's a challenge for them.
Oh yeah, definitely. Melrose get 4 or 5 points, then that catapults them up a few places at the table. That's the nature of the league at this time of year, of course, but. Yes, it's just a case of banking as many not only as many wins as possible, but as many bonus points as well.
Well, Sam Matthews back from holiday, and he'll be our man at Philip Hawke tomorrow. International 1, we'll start with our commentary game, which you'll be at, of course, at Riverside Park. Jed-Forest against Highland. It'll be our second visit to Riverside Park this season. Highland struggling both at home and away this season without a win. Jed 1 victory against Boroughmuir and bonus points in their other 2 games. Here's head coach for Jed, and that, of course, is Stuart Johnson.
We're back at home this week after a very disappointing result and display against Gala at the weekend there. Probably our worst performance of the season, and if I'm being frankly honest, probably one of the worst performances I've ever seen. But we move on, we're back at home, and things don't get any easier. We're up against a Highland side that will be desperate for a win, as they are sitting very close to bottom. But look, we need to be a lot better after Saturday. We were improving week on week from Selkirk to Biggar and then into Boroughmuir, and we went back so many pages against Gala. So we need to bounce back. Hopefully have Gregor Young back on Saturday, which adding his experience in will make a huge difference, and big Ben Fotheringham should be back as well as Finn Scott. So we should be slightly stronger this week, but it's just about performance for us, and we need to right every single wrong from the weekend there. And look, we had a good night training last night, and boys responded well, so just need to bring that into Saturday.
So, quite the statement. One of the worst performances he's ever seen. And he's seen a few, I'm sure.
Oh, candid honesty, and that's what you want from coaches and players. So fair play to Big Jono for that one. Jed will have a circle around this one on the calendar for sure. But it has
to be, isn't it?
There has to be, Stuart. I'll no doubt ask him about that pre-match. In this season, of all seasons, in the top 2 divisions, for me, it's not too early at this stage of the season to be asking about must-win games, if I'm being honest. And this, to me, for Jed, looks like a must-win game, but it's a must-win game for Highland as well. They need to pick up a victory from somewhere. But yeah, Jed, if they can bring back in the likes of Gregor Young, as he said there, Fotheringham and Finn Scott, of course, if they're all back, then that'll strengthen Jed no end. And yeah, and all of a sudden, if Jed can pick up a win, and if they can pick up a bonus point win, they're up to 13 points in the table from their first 4 games, and that's a pretty good return. But let's be mindful of the fact they've still got the big, certainly what our class is, the big 3 to play.
Highland, of course, traditionally not great travellers, and of course Gala turned them over quite easily at the start of the season. So a few nervous moments up at Canal Park.
Yeah, I think there will be, but they, as well as the game against Gala, they've played Stirling and they've played GHA, so those are out the way, or 50% out the way anyway. So yeah, Highland will start to pick up the victories of that. I'm sure it's just a question now, and none from 3 if they can pick up enough victories with the big 3 still to play. That's the nature of the league this season. It's going to be exceptionally exciting, particularly in the kind of lower reaches. Stirling might end up running away with it at the top, but it's going to be intriguing below that.
Well, we're into week 4 at the moment, and every week so far, Stuart Johnson has been talking about getting an 80-minute performance. He's obviously not getting that at the moment. Yeah,
for reasons unknown, I'm sure. But yeah, Jed's the type of team, and and it's kind of always been the case with Jed. If they can click on the day and you can get 65, 70 minutes out of them, then they can blow teams away. But if they're, with some of the rugby they play, but if they're not quite at it on the day, then they can get turned over as well, and they can concede a few. But no, I see this, I'd have this as a home win on Macoupin on Saturday.
Because it's always hard, isn't it, with Jed? I think you look at their performance against Biggar, where they were way ahead and got pipped at the post, and then against Boroughmuir, way behind, managed to turn it around. I mean, 2 completely different types of game.
Yeah, definitely. I think the second week showed a great deal of character. To come back from, they'd have been in a bit of trouble now, Jed, if they hadn't won that game. So fair play to them for that. But yeah, the likes of Jed, the likes of Gala, the likes of Peebles, it could come down to how many points you can pick up at home this season, and Jed have to my mind, at least pick up at least 4 on Saturday.
Dundee also without a win this season, but they've been scoring points. They're at home to Gala. Let's hear from Director of Rugby at Gala, and that's Euan Swinton.
Our game game against Jed last week was a Towsy border league affair. It was stop-start in truth, but with a lot of good rugby included as well. From our point of view, we had a good reaction to the previous weekend's events at GHA and started strongly, particularly in the forwards. That was good to see. Our front row resurgence continues, and that reflects on the work being done by Euan Robbie and the other coaches. So we're pleased with that. We built up a lead and really let it slip a wee bit, but that's down to Jed and the good work that they did on the day as well. So yeah, we had some strong performances in the forward, some good carrying. Unfortunately lost Glenn McCrum to a sprained ankle, and he'll be missing this weekend as a result. But the lads who came in did cover for him well this weekend. So we were quite pleased with the result against Jed, in all honesty. In a home game, we were looking for a bit more, and I guess that the guys will have been a little disappointed not to have gained the bonus point. That should be a target in home games such as this. So, yeah, we've got a point to prove again this weekend. So we head up to Dundee. We are going on the back of a much better performance, much more strength in the forwards. We'll take a game to Dundee, but they'll come right at us as well. They'll be confident and they'll be expecting something from this game. They turned us over in the corresponding fixture last year, and we will be a target for them. There's absolutely no doubt. It would be naive to think otherwise. They're well coached and well organised, so they'll pose a real challenge. But we have some latent talents that are ready to bloom. Harris Rutherford, on his return to the club, has had a couple of quiet games, but Harris is such a talented boy that he is going to come up with a big game soon, and hopefully it will be on Saturday. If that comes to pass, Harris can get the ball out to some real pace out in the backs. Lads like Murray Wilson in the centre, and our two wingers carry a real threat with Richie Mitchell around as well. We are hoping to have Ryan Montgomery appear on the scene, a new front row forward for the club with Super 6 experience. That may not be this weekend, but hopefully if it's not, it will be next weekend. So the club is strengthening. We're in a good position. We're going to go up to Dundee full of confidence from last weekend, knowing that so much more is yet to come from the team, and we have promise for the rest of the season. So we'll enjoy a good long trip up to Dundee. We'll do our best to get a good positive result on the road that sets us up for the next stage of the season, and then the boys will enjoy a journey back as they usually do.
Well, good to hear from Ewan Swinton again for the first time this season. And by the way, after he recorded that, he wanted to add a bit of a PS.
A particularly strong feature of our game Saturday, and a pleasing one, was the performance of young Gavin Fisher, a prop who is only 18 years old. He came to us this season from Preston Lodge, and he's looking to develop his game and grow and move into the higher echelons, I'm quite sure. He'll learn a lot at Gala from the coaches and from some of the experienced players around him, particularly guys like Craig Keddy and Ryan Montgomery coming into the club. It's a great place for a young guy to develop, and Gav is certainly producing the goods on an ever-improving basis, even this early into his career with the club. He scored a debut try on Saturday, and he was our clubhouse man of the match. So well done to Gavin, and keep it going. But it is tremendous to see that. It's something that Gala can do, Gala can give to clubs. I think that the SIU needs to be aware that young lads can develop in that one. The level of competition is pretty high, and the challenge for a youngster is definitely there. The opportunity to play regularly and grow is tremendous. We've got the capability to do that at Gala. Other clubs have similar capabilities. So Gav's a great example of what can be done, and he will progress to better things, I'm quite sure. But for the meantime, we'll love having him at Gala.
So Ewan Swinton then, good to hear him back on the programme, as I say, and with his positive attitude, and he's in a happy position at the moment in 5th place for Gala, 9 points on the board.
Oh, two wins from 3. Why not? Really good response, as I said earlier. Really good response after a heavy defeat through in Glasgow the week before. And yeah, if there's a winnable looking away game in this league at the moment, then potentially it is Dundee away. You know, the table doesn't lie, and it's maybe not quite as difficult a place to go as Highland as well. You know, there's not as much geography between Gala and Dundee for a start. So yeah, Gala can go up there absolutely with their tails up, and if they can get up again, a bit like Jed, if they can get a victory, 4 points catapults them up to 13, and 13 points from 4 games to get up and running is a good return.
We must mention GHA against Stirling County, two unbeaten teams going head-to-head at Braidholme. Arguably the biggest test of the season for Stirling, and if they can get a win there, you have to say it's hard to see where they're going to drop points this season, having already put 50 points past their other rivals, Glasgow Accies.
Oh yeah, if they win at GHA tomorrow, then I can't see how the league's not already in the bag, to be honest.
Glasgow Accies take on Biggar, and the other match is Peebles versus Boroughmuir. Let's hear now from Peebles head coach, that's Graeme Paterson.
Great to get our first win of the campaign. First half performance was pretty outstanding in terms of defensive efforts, really good defensive sets. Our set piece didn't function as well as we hoped and believed it would. Looking at the stats, we were down at 75% of our line out. Some of that was down to the weather and the conditions. Some of that was down to just mistakes and poor execution on our part, and a bit of pressure from Biggar as well. Fair play to the guys, they stuck to their task throughout there. It was made very difficult by the penalty count, and the fact that we had 3 yellow cards as well, all 3 backs, which is probably one of the surprising stats of the season so far. So playing 30 minutes of rugby with 14 was always going to be tough. So we made it difficult for ourselves, and that's a good thing to see in terms of there's room for improvement. We look ahead and we're looking for that reaction to almost a get out of jail free card. We won that game. I didn't feel we played to our potential, but we've taken the 4 points, and that's really key for us. But the big thing is we need to improve. Other sides may not let us off the hook, as we kind of got off the hook a wee bit. Boroughmuir will be a new challenge. We felt we left 3 or 4 really good chances out there, and we need to take these in key games as we move forward in the season. So trained well, and had a bit of a lighter session and a bit more kind of off the feet sort of stuff. Looked at some video clips, and analysed where we felt we done well on Saturday and where we can improve on. So hopefully that's given the guys a bit of visualisation as to what things that we can improve on, and what things we stick at doing well. In terms of performances from Saturday, it's difficult to single out too many guys. Euan Murray had a really good game in terms of the hard graft and basically banging people and taking ball on from 6, which is what he's one of his key skill sets is. Behind the scrum, again, I thought our young 17-year-old fullback Rory McAfee was outstanding. Coping with the step up into adult rugby like a duck to water. His kicking skills are very, very good, and he scored his first try there for the first 15. Took it really well, jinking inside that last defender to put us on the scoreboard early doors, and his penalty kicking was very good as well, which allowed us to just keep that scoreboard ticking over. So he's certainly one to watch for the future, and hopefully he will go on to bigger and better things, and that's what we're about. Looking ahead to our game against Boroughmuir, we've got a bit of kind of rotation and in personnel. Roddy Guinea is now headed off to Australia again, so he's now unavailable for the rest of the season. We've got a couple of unavailabilities through work commitments, a couple of boys back as well, so hopefully that'll refresh. William Naper's available to us again this week, so he comes into the front row. He's an outstanding member of our squad who travels up from down south at his Navy base and really puts in a shift for us every time he comes up. He'll set the tone in terms of physicality, both in the set piece and also around the park, so he'll be a key member of Saturday's squad, along with his front row, usual front row members in Matty Carrier and Drew Smith. So we're looking to really kind of have a go dominance wise up front with that kind of size and physicality in the front row. And backline will be pretty settled. Still looking to do the same, keep that consistency, build those relationships and look to improve week on week. Boroughmuir will be a big test. Having looking at them, they like to play with the ball, they like to move that ball, they like to offload the ball, so it's a quick, fast-paced game that they're looking to do, so we'll be looking to shut them down at every opportunity, maybe just tighten them up a wee bit and starve them a wee bit of ball and possession from set piece. But it's about us striking when we can, and that's what we'll look to do down in the gates, is hopefully the weather's going to be good, so both teams can have a go at playing some good rugby and looking to keep our season ticking over with our second win.
Well, Jed-Forest, of course, got points off Boroughmuir, won that game. They'll certainly be targeting this against Boroughmuir.
Oh, for sure, and so they should be. Boroughmuir at home. It's interesting that the bottom six in this league, which include Peebles, Jed and Gala, kind of all play each other this week. So, yeah, Peebles absolutely should be targeting this after their fantastic win up at Biggar last week. And, yeah, a win against Boroughmuir would take them above Boroughmuir in the table, and maybe if Gala and Jed can pick up a win, then that puts a wee bit of daylight between the three border clubs and Boroughmuir, Dundee and Highland below them.
How have Peebles been able to kind of get a foothold in this league, but without really sort of any big signings or anything?
Well, I think they had good players to start with. They've obviously had a good off season. And it just seems to be a club all moving in the right direction, right from the juniors all the way up. I think they're well coached. I think they're well led. Good players. So yeah, I didn't ever think they were going to come up and be whipping boys. To be honest, they've maybe done a wee bit better so far this season than some might have thought they would have done. But no, I didn't see them. I didn't see cricket scores being run up against them. They've got good players.
Well, National 2 briefly, and Kirkcaldy play tonight under the lights against Stumel, the only two teams so far with a 100% record. Kirkcaldy getting that 41-40 victory over Falkirk last weekend, which was very impressive.
Yeah, and it made a mockery of my prediction. Falkirk were the nailed-on favourites for me in this division this season, but yeah, it's Stumel who are top of the table at the moment, and Falkirk have lost the game.
And 9 teams in that league, so one sits out each Saturday. This week it's the turn of Falkirk, who have the break, which leaves us with Lasswade against GHK. Gordonians massacred Lasswade last week. That was a big surprise for me. GHK getting a draw with Preston Lodge. Newton Stuart play Gordonians tomorrow, and Berwick travel to Preston Lodge, who they beat in the National League Cup on the first day of the season. They're pointless at the moment. Here's head coach Paul Pringle.
So last Saturday we welcomed Stuart's Melville down to Scremerston in the second round of fixtures in Nat 2. Unfortunately we went down 31-15 in what was quite a really disappointing performance for us. Again, we had a couple of injury issues. Nathan Melrose, 2 minutes into the game, had a really bad knee injury, so it looks like we're going to be missing Nathan for between 2 and 3 months. We certainly wish him well with his recovery, and we hope to get him back as quickly as possible. But yeah, that was quite a blow to us. And then about 25-30 minutes in, we lost Grant Maltman to some ligament damage in his ankle. That saying though, turning the 12-0 down into the wind and up the hill, we certainly expected to kick on in the second half. Unfortunately though, just a lack of accuracy and probably application, we didn't do that, and ultimately went down 31-15. Moving forward to this week, we know Preston Lodge pretty well. We've played them, we played them again just earlier in the season in the cup fixtures. We know it'll be a tough physical game, and we're certainly setting up that way. Duncan Hardy will return at inside centre after a really strong performance for our twos at the weekend. Stuart Farnaby will be starting in the second row. Ben Simmons is unavailable this week, so we do just have to rejig the backs a little bit, but yeah, that's fine. Rory Hindhoff will move back to 15, and Jack Williamson will come in at hooker just to shore up that front row. So yeah, we still got we're quite comfortable with the squad selection. It'll be a strong squad going up there, and we're really looking just to get things moving forward and start converting the good work that the lads are doing in training, and just then making it happen on the pitch, which is the key. But yeah, keen to get the game under our belt and hopefully get the right result.
Paul Pringle, 0 out of 2, but against 2 of the top 3 teams in the league. They also came back from 18-0 down at Preston Lodge in the National League Cup to put in a fine second half display. And of course, remember, this is the, what do they call it, the 20-point hill? Yes,
the 20-point hill. But yeah, you're right, Berwick have played what would appear at the moment to be, I certainly think Falkirk are there or thereabouts, but yeah, Stumel have made a really strong start, and that's the two teams Berwick have played. So, but yeah, they'll be looking to get a win at Preston Lodge, or get something from the game at least. But of course they know they can go there and win, and win big games at that. They won the cup game earlier this season, they won the famous playoff game not so long ago as well. So it's definitely a place Berwick can go and get a result. And they'll be looking to get up onto the horse, not back onto the horse, but up onto the horse this season.
Well, Rugby Radio is on at 2:30 as usual tomorrow for 3 hours, ending at 5:30 to allow us to get interviews and reaction from coaches and players, which is always a fascinating listen, I think. And so we come to the East League Roundup for the week. Euan Welsh brings us this report.
The East League Roundup with Euan Welsh.
Hello and welcome back to the weekly East League Roundup, taking a look at the 6 Borders teams competing in the 3 regional divisions. Let's start in East League 1. And last weekend, Langham took the win on the road at Ross High by 29 points to 21. This week, the men in Crimson will look to make it 3 out of 3 in the league when they head on the road to Portobello. And we can hear from head coach Craig Hislop.
It was really good to get a victory on the road on Saturday up at Ross High, winning 29 points to 21, scoring 5 tries and gaining the bonus point. 4 tries by our front row was pleasing as well, showed their ascendancy in the pack. The fullback Aidan Wilson also added a try. Biggest challenge on Saturday was the pitch and the windy conditions. But as I say, it was pleasing to go back to back at the start of the season. So next up, we're away again up the road to Edinburgh to play Portobello. Always a tough place to go for ourselves as well. They took a heavy defeat last week at Dalkeith, so I'm sure they'll be looking to get one back on home patch. Decent squad looking like for this weekend. A few injury concerns, but we'll hopefully get them back fit and on the pitch. And 3 from 3 would be a really good start to the season. Here's hoping.
Hawick Harlequins are our only team in East League 2, and their season got underway on Saturday past at Pennycook. Unfortunately for the Quins, it was a 51-33 defeat, but Captain Liam Graeme hopes that they can bounce back this weekend at home to Leith.
After last week's disappointing result, but a positive display all in all against Pennycook, we welcome Leith down to Wilton Lodge Park this week. With a number of players back for us, we feel like we will have a good squad to challenge what looks to be a very strong Leith side in the league this year. After a positive display for them away to Livingston, where they came out with all the points, we feel that we can really give them a challenge with our newly bolstered squad. After only travelling to Pennycook with 16 last week. Although we did only have 16, there was a number of positive displays that will hopefully continue this week and really challenge this Leith squad to try and come away with our first win of the season.
Well, the 3rd division is where 4 of the Borders teams are, and last week saw a border derby between Hawick Lindeen and Duns, with the Lindeen coming out on top by 31 points to 17. This weekend the Lindeen play Lismore away from home, and we can hear the thoughts of Vice President Kieran Murphy.
This Saturday we travel up to Inch Park to play Lismore, who have started the season very well. 2 bonus point victories like us on 10 points and certainly looking to challenge up the top. So it'll be a tough game for the team. On the back of last week, and Duns was a very tough game as well. So we've been playing in kind of 20-minute spells over the first 2 games, and we're really looking to kind of put that together for a full game, for a good performance, because I don't think it's really been there. Over the first 2 fixtures, we've just played in spells, and spells isn't really good enough sometimes, so I certainly got to have to pick up a little bit playing Lismore, because, like I say, they'll have plenty of confidence going into this weekend. Our team, we're missing 5 or 6, probably missing 3 or kickers, which isn't great. Jordan Wight sadly suffered a bad injury last weekend, so he'll be missing for a while, probably due an operation, so it's not looking good on that front. Liam Sharkey also out, and there's a few like Roddy Hume, he can make it. So there's going to be a few changes this week, but we're certainly looking positive. We're having Jack Wilson back in the middle row. He's a big difference in attack, so that's the positive side of that. But certainly we'll think it's a tough game up at Inch Park this weekend, but we'll just try and do what we can and hopefully come away with a victory and 5 points to keep challenging up the top of the league.
Earlston were also a winning team last week, as they ran out 38 points to 14 winners at Edinburgh Northern. This week they are at home against Inverleith, who are yet to win a game. Here's Earlston's head coach, Cammy Hill.
So last week we travelled to Edinburgh to play Edinburgh Northern, and what we knew would be a tough test, based on last season's fixtures, and that's exactly what we got. It was a really tough game. From the kick-off, we were playing against the wind and up the slope in the first half, and the Northern's very sizable pack. We always knew this was going to be a big test in our defensive efforts, but man for man, it's probably one of the best defensive efforts I've seen since I joined the club. A lot of times last season we would have maybe just crumbled under certain amounts of pressure when we were in our own 22 for long periods of time, but on Saturday everybody stepped up and it was absolutely brilliant to see. Obviously that showed when it was 14-all at half time. Going in, it was really positive, and then when you start coming into the second half and we're playing with the wind, and we really started to take control of the game. Our game plan was working really well. Our forwards were matching up against the big pack and showing that we'd improved massively in that area from last season, along with the pace and accuracy of the backs. We managed to score a further 4 tries in the second half to finish out 38-14 winners, which I thought was thoroughly deserved. So we can't complain. It's taking things week by week and we're building now. On to this week's fixture, and we welcome Inverleith to the Hogg, which should be a good fixture if anything from last season's to go by. They had a few good ball carriers, big lads in the forwards, so it'll be pretty similar to last weekend's fixture. So we're really looking forward to that. As for this weekend's squad, there's a few changes due to other commitments, but it's good to see Callum McNeil and Matthew Gaston return to the backline, which adds a lot to our game, and we also welcome back Martin Linton in at prop.
As for the other two sides, Duns face a trip to Edinburgh Northern, and Gala will look to back up last week's win at Inverleith as they take on Edinburgh Uni Medics at home. That's your update from the East Leagues. All the best to all of our Borders teams.
The East League Roundup with Euan Welsh.
My thanks to Euan Welsh. Now, before we go, let me draw your attention to a charity called Great, which has just been put together and launched by Ian Bothinison, the head coach of Edinburgh Accies, who told us all about it.
We were delighted to launch the Grassroots Rugby for Everyone Awards Trust, or GREAT for short, really with the aim of growing the number of children and adults who play and support the game throughout Scotland. We hope later on in the year to open up a grant scheme to individuals, rugby clubs, schools and charities to help make this happen. We've got a further lunch coming up on the 25th of October at Melrose, and then another on the 8th of November in Newton Moor, and we'll have one in the west of the country to announce soon. Through GREAT, we're hoping to continue to drive the positive message around rugby. The physical and mental well-being part, teamwork, problem solving, strategy, communication, those aspects of life that are so important. But also, as our patron, Gregor Townsend, spoke about, the lifelong friendships that are made are really important as well. Hopefully, through GREAT, we can provide new opportunities for children and adults to be involved in the game, which in turn will help grow the game, bring further communities together, and help improve the talent pool in the grassroots game, which will benefit the professional game ultimately. Having Gregor Townsend as our patron, he's the perfect fit for GREAT, as he discussed at the launch a lot about the above. So please take some time, check out our website, greatrugby.scot. There you can donate, or if you'd like to get in touch and have any questions, please do so at info@greatrugby.scot. Together we can all help make Scottish rugby great again.
Ian Bothinison. That's it for this edition of the Friday Rugby Preview. We're on air at 2:30 tomorrow for 3 hours with Jed-Forest against Highland in National 1, which is our feature game with Robin Purdy. We've reporters round the grounds as well on what should be another exciting weekend for Scottish club rugby. Friday Rugby Preview will be back same time next week, but from Robin and me, bye for now.
The Friday Rugby Preview with Stuart Cameron.